First, I would like to present our speakers. Dušica Ilić-Bojeva from the Hydrobiological Institute from Ohrid, and she will present us to safeguard the endemic lake Ohrid trout. After Miss Dušica Ilić, we will have Mr. Zoran Martinovski, institute from Prime Blue Institute, and he will present us local development through innovation and startups in freshwater blue economy sector. And our final speaker will be Miss Anastasia Katic, representative of EUSAIR Youth Council Bosnia and Herzegovina, and she will give us her thoughts, views and proposals of the next generation on the effort to continue living and work in the region. Thank you, and I would like to give a word to Miss Dušica Ilić.
So linking species which is important from both sides, commercially, but also as a biodiversity representative of Lake Ohrid, is of the bottom fauna, and more than 60% of the ichthyofauna being endemic. Among these, the most notable species is Lake Ohrid trout, or Salmoletnica, which serves as a key apex predator, and by that is maintaining the ecological balance among fish populations, but also overall balance in the lake. In addition to its ecological dominance, the trout holds substantial socioeconomic value for local fishermen and the communities surrounding the lake. Commercial fishery started in the late 20s of the previous century, and from that on is ongoing. And this is the main fishing object. The Lake Ohrid trout exhibits several distinct ecotypes and spawning forms that occupy specific habitats and follow distinct spawning chronologies throughout the year. So there are 4 forms of Salmoletnica. One is spawning during the winter, one is spawning during the summer, one is spawning in the tributaries, and 2 are geographically distinct. One is in the northern part of the lake, and the other one eastern, southeastern, and western part of the lake. They are spawning on different spawning substrates. Some of them are spawning on gravel, some on the sand, some of the dead Dreissena shells with a mixed sand substrate, and some, as I mentioned, are spawning in the tributaries. The diversity in reproductive behavior significantly contributes to the ecological resilience and evolutionary uniqueness of the species. The 5th one in the table, Salmo ohridana, is even more ancient than Salmoletnica, and it is like unique trout species, which is even morphologically differs from different other trouts. It's more gentle, more fragile. It's different in morphology, without all those colorful spots that all other salmonid species are having. Conservation efforts for the Lake Ohrid trout are ongoing for 9 decades. In 1935, the establishment of the hydrobiological station in Ohrid, where I belong as a scientist, initiated organized artificial spawning activities aimed at supporting sustainable fisheries and preserving the endemic trout population. From one side, to help the livelihood of the people in the area. Lake Ohrid is transboundary lake shared between Republic of Albania and our country. So the commercial fishery started on our side, and until late 60s it was only introduced on our side of the lake. Afterwards, a commercial fishery started also in Albania. And to expand conservation capacity in 1960, second hatchery on our side, on Macedonian side, was built, and in 1965 in the vicinity of the village Lin in Albania. And since then, this process has been a joint effort between the two neighboring countries that share the lake. Today, the program for artificial spawning, breeding, and restocking the Lake Ohrid trout is funded for North Macedonia with the National Annual Program for the Financial Support of Fisheries and Aquaculture, and this initiative is directed by the Ministry of Agriculture, Forestry and Water Economy, using the mechanism of the Agency for Financial Support of Agriculture and Rural Development. Artificial spawning procedures follow strictly controlled scientific protocols, and broodstock individuals are collected using catch and release methods. That helps to avoid bottleneck of gene pool. That helps to have the same individuals in the future years to be spawners or to be part of the reproductive population, which is very important. This is landlocked lake, and it is important to keep sustainability of the species, as I've mentioned at the beginning, from the both sides, because it's an apex predator. There are no pikes or pike perch in the lake, other different predator species. So what is happening in the feeding chain or the feeding pyramid at the top is controlling what is happening below. One link of the chain, if it is broken, then the balance is shifted, and no matter that the human population are interested only on the end, what is to be set on the plate, every single creature living in the lake is with the same importance, no matter of the body size. So the phytoplankton or the zooplankton are with the same importance, and keeping the flow of the nutrients and the flow of the elements in the water. And since this is a very old lake with more than 2 million of years of existence, survived that long period of time, hopefully will survive even our generation. Controlled fertilization and the continuous monitoring of embryonic development are practiced to maximize survival rates while preserving genetic integrity, which means that if the natural spawning is happening, only 30 to 33% of the fertilization will happen. That is because the egg is having micropillars where the sperm should get in and fertilize the egg. But if that is happening, they are living in water and they cannot avoid the water. In the contact of water, the proteins inside the egg will coagulate and the fertilization is not possible. So in this sense, using dry method of Vraski, which means avoiding presence of the water in the surrounding of the eggs, we are dealing with first stripping the females in the perforated bucket, then we are transferring those eggs in the non-perforated bucket, adding the milk, adding the water, and it's only 90 seconds of the fertilization. The temperature of the water is 4 to 7 degrees Celsius. It's happening in mid-January until the mid-February. So the trigger for starting reproductive cycle of the fish is cold water. There are salmon species. There are also indicators of clean water, so that means that they need very plausible and very favorable conditions to start with the reproduction. They are very clever. They know how to do everything, how to organize. If the temperature during the winter is changing, so we have 2 weeks of warm, 2 weeks of cold weather, they will sequentially spawn. So first they will prepare one ovary, they will spawn, and then in 2 weeks they will get rather the second ovary, and they will fulfill the whole reproductive cycle. So what is very important, and it's shown on the photos, that involving professional fishermen in these artificial spawning procedures has fostered a profound shift in their local perspective. They've changed their hearts. So rather than viewing the trout only as a commercial, valuable resource, they are participating in the collection of eggs and milk and fertilizing. So, and releasing. At the beginning, they are just acting like, why you are just putting back all the spawners that are caught. But at the end, first of all, those individuals can be caught further on, because while the process is ongoing, it's seasonal ban for commercial fishing. We are getting special permission from the Ministry of Agriculture, Forestry and Water Economy for the targeted fishing of reproductive population, and all of spawners are surviving. Then they are part of the vegetative population, and they can be caught, they can be fished further on by commercial fishing. So they have win-win situation. They are not losing what is important as a commercial commodity, but on the other side, they know that further on they can again reach and use it.
Sorry, Dušica, but
Yep.
if I understood correctly, they goes out from spawning area. In fact,
Yeah.
you have spawning area where you caught them, and
Yeah.
and after spawning, they will go on some other.
They
position.
will not go. We will release them on
Yes.
2 to 3 kilometers from the spawning
spawning.
grounds, just to give them time to settle their hormones and to stay in the open waters. But that is not happening always. That works for females. For males, it's not just like that. They are just coming back and back on the spawning grounds for the whole period, spawning period. So they are not sure that they've obtained the offspring. So they will just come back from different spots, different areas in the lake to be, let's say, at least more sure that they will contribute in a fertilization of some eggs, and they will have some offspring by themselves. So the hatchery breeding process begins with embryonic development, which lasts between 36 to 40 days on a temperature of 10.5 degrees of the spring water that we are using, the same spring water that is feeding the lake. So the same quality of the water is used in our facilities, which is also feeding the lake. Luckily, still untreated. It is water with high quality, high oxygenation, low nutrients presence, but with the urbanization that is happening above our institute, in future we need to install or to modernize our facility with using UV sterilization and mechanical filtration of the water. But for now, it's working as it is. So afterwards, when they are hatched, they are having huge yolk sac on their abdomen in the middle top, and that is endogenous food for their next 30 days. That is like a yolk in the chicklet's egg, with the unique ratio of proteins and fats to give them material to grow fast. Because when they are hatched, they are not even larvae, they are pre-larvae. They need to just use the yolk sac, and afterwards either to feed on zooplankton in the lake or to be fed by artificial food that we are giving them for the next 6 months before releasing to the lake. The target for releasing is autumn peak of the zooplankton in the lake, when their mouth size is the same as the size of the body of the zooplankton in the lake. And that is targeted period in the second half of August and September, when they will have abundance of food in the lake. And also, 1 day before releasing, we are keeping them hungry. So, to avoid extra nutrients be loaded in the lake, but from the other side, hungry eyes will go straight for the food, so they are going like bullets in the water level of 20 to 30 meters depth, where the water temperature is the same as in our facilities. So 10.5 degrees in our facilities, 10.5 degrees in the lake, to adapt much faster and not to have stress, because in their size, let's say 0 plus in age, but size of 8 to 10 centimeters and 3 to 3.5 grams, they are fit enough to avoid the predators. They will avoid birds of prey, so cormorants. They will not be eaten. From the other side, the surface water in August is 22 to 24 degrees for the salmon species, too high. So by that, we are using their instincts to survive, to find food, and in the nature is always less effort, bigger success. So they will not swim away from that water column where the zooplankton is. They will stay there, and by that we know that the survival rate of the released fingerlings will be very high. So fertilization in our cases is close to 99%. Comparing to the 33 in nature is much higher. So this is like a bypass of the process of artificial spawning, helping the natural population. We are not covering whole population, we are covering only 30%. So we are letting to the nature to do the rest of the job, because we don't want to interfere in the subpopulations, possible mixing from one to the other gene flow. We are giving, let's say, just a path to success, but not to overlap the nature effort. Then fingerlings are released in a vicinity of the spots where they were, their parents were caught. So that means if they were collected from the southern side of the lake, they will be released there. So we are keeping track which batch is from which locality, so to know where to be released. Unfortunately, for 5 years, we've had stop in these 9 decades of maintaining the process from 2019 until 2024. And now it's reestablished again from Macedonian side. And for that purpose, we've kept one number of 100,000 individuals from the previous year that they will be released this year. Usually we are not doing that because we want to release them in a size and age where they can keep their instincts and to help sustaining the population in number. But from the size to have 5 years of gap, we need extra help. So we need to release 1+ individuals in the lake, and that is a lot of calculation, math, but it's also biology. So connecting two sciences and something, this is job for a lifetime, and it's one lifetime is too short to do what the goals are set. So to get to the fast lane, we will help a bit further the nature to have extra released individuals in the lake with a bigger size, will be around 15 grams. So they will be adaptable, but there is also one accent of risk. If they are too old to be released, they will be domesticated. They will go in a shallow water. So we want to reach the point to have them as big as possible, but as young as possible, not to be domesticated. So it's a lot of calculation, but it's very fulfilling job, and it's something very important. The best days of the year are when they are released back to the lake. As I said, the size of the mouth is the size of the zooplankton in the lake. At the same time, there are pressures to this population, which are on the right corner, invasive species. Luckily, our lake has unique auto-purification techniques how to preserve itself, and also because of the oligotrophicity, which means very low nutrient presence in the lake, those species cannot adapt that fast. Just comparing, as I've mentioned previously, Lake Prespa, which is mesotrophic lake, which means in the middle of the trophic status. There, the top one, the pumpkin seed, can even spawn twice a year because of the favorable conditions. Much higher temperature, a lot of food, and they know that their offspring will survive. But in Lake Ohrid, the effort is not really worth it. So even to have an offspring once a year, the food is not that abundant to prosper. So they will not reproduce that as in other places. The other problem is presence of ghost nets, that is commonly named abandoned, lost, or otherwise discarded fishing gear everywhere around the world is one of the biggest problems. From one side, because of the microplastic released by the degradation of the nylon of ghost nets, but on the other side is the pressure to the biodiversity, because they are not selective anymore. When they are lost, they will just fish everything, like birds, crustaceans, or other living species in the water. What is linked with the blue economy? From waste, we can get to the product. So those nylon components of the nets can be upcycled, not just recycled, but upcycled, and from that to get like clothing, like some commodities, some usable house utilities or whatever, something that removed from the lake will help restoring the spawning grounds, because trouts are not going where the rotten flesh is. So if there is, no matter which creature just decomposing there, trouts will avoid that place. So that's from 2070 was the target for us to clean the spawning grounds, and from 2023, in 3 consecutive years, we are having cleanup of those spawning grounds to help the success of the artificial spawning, but also to help the natural spawning in the lake to reach the sustainability of the species in a level, let's say, to have trout for future generations. And by that, although all these activities, as I've mentioned, is a joint effort for the artificial spawning, but it's a not joint effort for cleanup of the ghost nets. So one of the very important thing is to align measures, mitigation measures, and protective conservation measures for the species, to have them aligned for the both sides of the lake that are using resources from it. From the other side, integrated conservation and essential alignment will help to have more close collaboration among scientists, policymakers, and local community. Usually we are saying, starting with the education, even from the before kindergarten, kids will learn that their actions are part of the global actions. If they are starting to thinking that they can help to protect Lake Ohrid, which is largest drinking water reservoir in Europe, doesn't belong only to the people that are living in the surroundings, belongs to everyone in the world. We need to protect it from each and every side, no matter which living creature from the lake would be an object for conservation. Thank you.
Thank you, Dušice. I would like to ask you some questions, and are there some questions from audience? If there is no at the moment, first, what was the reason for the gap of 5 years 2019 to 2024?
There were several reasons. One, I didn't go through very specific things, but climate changes is happening everywhere. One reason was the lowering the capacity of the spring water from Biljana Springs. Luckily that we found common ground to discuss with the enterprise which is using the water from Biljana Springs, so we are sharing like 50-50 water from the springs, to give priority to the national treasure, because the Lake Ohrid trout is a national treasure, is on the coin of 2 denars, I think. Nowadays they are using portion of the water for the drinking water supply system for the city from the lake. The equipment was very old, 40 years old, but together we've pushed, let's say, the policymakers to find way to finance replacement of this equipment, and now half of the water that is used in the drinking water systems is coming from the lake. So we are getting a bit more capacity of the water, which is helping for now. But knowing that climate change is not something that it's with the same pace all the time. So we have fluctuations. We have years when the hydrological situation is totally different, like this year. So the Lake Ohrid now is on the maximum level for this period. Last year was on the minimum level for the period. So we need to think upfront to change the things and to have backup system. So now we are applying for financial support to get underwater ground system to help us have backup system for the water in the years when the hydrology will not be favorable for the system. Since we've gave a promise that we'll keep with the same number of the individuals to continue the process of artificial spawning, we need to just set the years that will be not in a favor of hydrology. The other things was different management policies. So we've had in the past, from 2004 until 2012, total moratorium on fishing on Lake Ohrid. That was like a measure to see if the population will reach the sustainability without commercial fishing. But in the nature is not working like that. So first of all, by that you are pressuring presence of illegal fishing. You cannot avoid that, especially in the long transitional period for some societies as our. And from the other side, it's when socio-economic status is not good, people are reaching either in the forests or in the rivers and lakes to survive. But then it's not just survival, it's something more. It's like you want something even more. And by that, strict rules needs to be implemented. And by that, we have from last year new concession on the lake. There was a period that concession was given and withdrawn from other reasons, from different reasons. And now we have new method of concession. So there are 7 different concessioners on the lake, so they will guard themselves by themselves from one side, and from the other side to see, to get more accurate data, more to feeding the science, to get the not approximation but assessment of the fish stock present in the lake. So it's a story to tell for days. It's something that is very complex, but it's very important, and it's very, let's say, economically valuable for the surrounding vicinity of the lake.
Thank you for the answer. And I would like to ask also, is it possible to produce in a recirculated aquaculture system, or it's only depend on natural water?
That is our target. But let's say that first our goal is to get to semi-recirculated system. It's a bit expensive toy to get to recirculation system, but we are getting there. Step by step, by changing the equipment in 2007, we have much better conditions. Next step is, as I've mentioned, to have the backup system for the water supply, to have mechanical filtration and UV sterilization, and further on that is very close to the recirculating system. It is possible, but it's very important to say that this is very slow growing species. So it needs 7 years to get to 1 kilo. By that, commercially, comparing to the, let's say, rainbow trout can get to fit in the plate in 6 months. For Lake Ohrid trout, you will need 3 years to get to a plate size. So it's very time demanding and very special, let's say. It's set in the gene to live in an oligotrophic lake where there is no that much food because they are not eating ad libitum like other salmonid species. They are just eating as much as they need.
Thank you. Are there some other questions from? Then I would like to switch to Professor, yeah? No. Okay, then to Mr. Zoran Martinovski.
He calls me Professor.
Thank you. Mr. Zoran Martinovski, the blueprint, 3 transformation models. Thank you.
Okay, so good afternoon. I'm not a professor. I'm a former banker. Now a consultant. I may look a professor because I put on tie to look smarter. It just happens that my family comes from Ohrid. And when I was a kid, my grandfather would take me for trout fishing, and my late uncle as well. A few years ago, I became a grandfather. And I said, if our generation doesn't do something serious, I may end up in a situation to show hopefully, my grandson a trout in a museum. And I think this is a conversation that Dušica and I had recently in Ohrid, and she showed me the entire process. Now I'm still trembling, I mean, seeing it, you can feel the energy coming from, she's delivering babies there. I mean, it's full of life and energy because these embryos, and something needs to be done about it. Science is not enough. You need a multi-stakeholder involvement in order to safeguard what the God, gave us 1 million years ago. And when I was talking to people about the value of water, and this is the topic of my presentation, I was shocked. Of course, being a proud guy from Ohrid, I was telling them about our culture, about the nature, and so on. But they told me one thing. The most precious blue asset of Ohrid is the water itself. There is no life without water. This is one of the largest reservoirs of fresh water in the world. Maybe Baikal Lake is bigger because it's larger and deeper. So just again, as an economist, I look at the economic value of that asset. And the topic of my presentation is how we should approach the valorization of blue assets. Dušica mentioned one thing: you cannot stop people to survive. So basically, the key question is how you can balance the interest of people with the nature preservation. This is the trick. I've spent more than 20 years working for one of the largest financial institutions in the world, the World Bank. Actually, it's a private sector arm, the International Finance Corporation. And I've provided financing and advisory services to a number of investors, it's private sector, of which most of my time I spent in this part of the world, the Balkans, the Southeast Europe, as it was called before, of which I've spent 10 years in Montenegro. I was a country head of IFC, and I would like to tell the story, the blue transformation story of Montenegro, and how it could be relevant for Macedonia, but also for the broader region. So this is the topic of my presentation. Okay, so one would ask, how come? I'm supposed to talk about freshwater blue economy, while most of my presentation is about, if you don't mind, yeah. And most of my presentation is about saltwater.
Do you want to
Just move it. You need these papers.
So,
If you need this.
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
I will move myself.
Can you see? Yeah. Okay. So, since the audience is mixed, I see a lot of young people, but also more senior people. I'll try sort of, I believe, to keep the interest of this diverse group. Anyway, Montenegro. So, how many of you have been to Montenegro? Okay, not every. How many of you are aware with Boka Kotorska? Boka Bay? All right. So probably Boka Bay is a fjord, right? Is one of the most beautiful spots in the Mediterranean. But Boka Kotorska, to a large extent, resembles a lake because it's protected. It's surrounded by mountains and so on. And there are a number of assets sitting basically in Boka Kotorska that through which story, I believe, some lessons could be learned also for freshwater assets. So I'm going to talk about the case of Montenegro. I'm going to also talk about Velenje, Slovenia. I'm not going to talk about the Adriatic coast of Slovenia. I'm going to talk about Velenje as a coal hub of Slovenia. And again, it's linked with blue economy. When I was at school, we were taught that the two most famous lakes are Bled and Bohinj, right? How many of you have heard about Velenje Lake? How come you know about Velenje Lake? You see?
Just
And you too. Velenje Lake, if I'm not, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that Velenje Lake did not exist 20 years ago or 30 years ago. It did not. It just happened. Velenje Lake, and I'm going to say more about it, is a jewel of the blue economy of Slovenia. Freshwater, coal. And finally, some lessons also from Italy, from Portovesme, the island of Sardinia. Again, another example how a coal region could be transformed into a blue asset. Okay, let's go one by one. Okay, so Porto Montenegro, are there any Montenegrins here? No? Huh? Okay. Porto Montenegro. Porto Montenegro is this beautiful marina which emerged about 10, 15 years ago maybe. Before it was a former military base, a military service center for the INA, for JNA, the ex-Yugoslav army, and it was a service center for submarines. Now, it is one of the most luxurious super yacht marinas in the world. And it happened to a massive transformation of the land, and I just happened to be there when this project started, and my former employer, IFC, provided 150 million financing for the rehabilitation, for the expansion of the marina, the inner part, but also to the attached yacht service centers, which is on the opposite side of the bay. The yacht service center used to be a shipyard for tankers. It went into transformation for a yacht service center. Now you have a much greener and bluer jobs over there rather than compared to before. So what is the lesson learned here? When you combine a political will, governance, and right type of instruments, the blue finance, and innovation, and entrepreneurship, you may transform some, I would say, a legacy asset, which was polluting and again, degrading that part of Boca into the jewel of the Mediterranean. How many of those brown, I would say, legacy assets we have on our lakes and rivers and coastal cities, which could be transformed and upgraded and generate jobs and boost investments and so on. Just think about it. It happened in less than 15 years. But there are other stories from Boka Kotorska. In Prčanj, there was a medical plant, just like ours in Ohrid, the former Deckono, which was a medical facility of the Serbian health insurance funds. And it was sitting there degraded completely. An entrepreneur from Montenegro, guy who was in the energy business, took it over and transformed it into a 5-star luxury hotel, but changing everything. And now it's under the brand of Hyatt, meaning that it fixed the wastewater treatment plant. It brought in new types of services combined with medical services. So the facility is open throughout the year. It's providing not only, I would say, touristic, I would say, services, but also medical and experiential tourism. So in Ohrid Lake, Dušica, and I will refer to Ohrid because this is the most closest to my heart. How many of those assets we have on Ohrid Lake sitting there out and ugly and just degrading and doing nothing? Port of Bar, another example, another project of mine where I was involved. Port of Bar was one of the largest ports of former Yugoslavia. The Zastava cars used to be exported through, if you remember, when the railway was still functioning. With the collapse of Yugoslavia, the amount of cargo actually is drops dramatically, and the environmental standards of Port of Bar were not up to the level. But then a Turkish investor came on board, a global port, and upgraded the facility and so on. Now Port of Bar is gaining in importance with the invention of, I would say, green technologies, offshore energy, and so on. So another interesting example. Another project that I'm really proud of was the blue finance of Podgorica. And one will say, how is Podgorica relevant to blue economy? Through, how many of you know Podgorica? Okay, few people. The river of Morača flows through Podgorica, one of the most beautiful rivers. I mean, still also cold and trout and everything. But from Podgorica towards the Skadar Lake, it was one of the most polluted rivers because of substandard wastewater treatment basically taking place in Podgorica, but also because of aluminum plant that is right there, and aluminum is a very toxic, and so we provided blended finance, a package of financing combining commercial loan, and grant financing from the EU for the municipality to upgrade the wastewater treatment plant, the collector system. Few more bridges were built, and what is important, the beltway around the city was built so the transit traffic was circumvented. So less pressure basically on it, as a result of which the situation is much better than it used to be before, meaning that we have a much cleaner water, and the implications on Skadar Lake are obvious. Once I was having lunch in Skadar in a restaurant on Bojana River. Bojana flows out of Skadar Lake. And I ordered fish, and I asked the waiter, aren't you serving the fish from the river? I said, no, 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 no. For generations, they were not eating the fish because they knew that the water is polluted. You know, again, people are not stupid. And so again, upstream intervention, like wastewater treatment plant, could mean fisheries downstream. So think about it. You know, the blue finances can activate potentials for startups, and you know, other types of, I would say, initiatives could be built once you fix the infrastructure. And I think for Ohrid, again, going back and forth, what is missing is exactly that. We have infrastructure built in the 50s, 60s, 70s. Some of it even before, like these docks that you see are built during the time of the Kingdom of Yugoslavia, and since then nothing was built. And infrastructure is the precondition for sustainability. We have a wastewater treatment plant that hasn't been checked for many, many years. God knows, you know, what gets into the lake and what. There's few villages in Ohrid Lake. When I was a kid and as a young father, I would take my children there, like Trpeica, Ljubanište, and so on. These were further down to Sveti Naum. The water now is cleaner in Ohrid than over there. Would you agree, Dušica? Why? Because at least in Ohrid you have the collector system collecting the waste from, but in those villages there is nothing, no treatment.
And this year will be.
Inshallah. Yes, so I mentioned Morača, okay. And there are other, I would say, interesting, I would say, interventions that projects in Boka Kotorska, like, okay, just quickly, few brownfield investments, have been transformed into a 5-star development. And again, a luxury tourism. I mean, environmentalists would say, well, they are degrading. It's on the contrary. Less than low end, because they need to follow strict standards, because of the ESG consideration, because of the pressure from the financiers and so on. So there is nothing wrong with luxury, whatever it is, luxury tourism, luxury yachting, and so on, if that is the way to promote economic development while preserving the nature. Maybe it will sound, that is not inclusive and so on, but that's the reality. Low-end economic activities are oftentimes the one to really to be, more strict about, because they do not follow the same, I would say, scrutiny of as compared with the more I would say, upscale projects. Another interesting, I would say, development is, concessioning of Montenegrin airports, and Tivat Airport is one of them. It's ongoing, but a water terminal would be built to avoid, traffic through the congested, network. There was an idea for the Ohrid Airport to have something similar, but again, using the new technologies, electric boats, and so that you don't really that you reduce impact on nature. Okay. I mentioned Velenje. Velenje is the main coal region of Slovenia. Most of its domestically produced energy comes from Velenje. The other coal region was Trbovlje, but the mine is closed many years ago, and also the power plant. In Velenje is still up and running. So, if I'm not mistaken, the coal mines are one of the deepest in Europe. I've checked them. I've been down under, and it's a bit scary, basically, to go in these coal mines, knowing that above you have lakes. So what happened, basically, because of tectonic, I would say, reasons, the small lake collapsed, and now it's filled with water. The three lakes, right? It's a cascade of lakes. so which are actually sitting on coal. However, most, I would say, strict rules were applied what you can actually do around these lakes. So you have electric boats, you have settlements, like these small houses are for people to go there and have their gardens, but they are not allowed to overnight, if I'm not mistaken. So you can use them for daily use, but not, why not overnighting? Because they want to avoid having them for tourism reasons, I mean, for, booking or Airbnb, type of purposes. So it's only for recreational use around the lake. I don't know if you can see, there is an infrastructure built for youth-related activities. They have festivals, they have electric bikes, they have rowing. I mean, and the Velenje beach a few years ago got the award as the best beach in Slovenia overall, combining lakes and the coastal area. So again, think about it: coal region, but the top environmental standards applied. And Šoštanj Valley is the main tourism destination for family type of tourism. People go there, have picnics, and they sit on the grass, and so on. So how many of those family type of tourism destinations we have in Macedonia left that we used to, where we used to go for picnics, for weekends, for 1st of May celebrations, so on? Very few. Okay, this is a bit different story, but I will skip it. This is from Sardinia, and again, a very interesting story about the green and blue transformation, where Sardinia, you would say it's a luxury tourism, but the south of Sardinia is the center of the heavy industry of, used to be at least, before all these plants were closed down. Only the thermal plant is left, and the infrastructure which is on the shore is now undergoing blue transformation for yachting services, for refit, and so on. I have it here because we also have industrial plants on our lakes, on our rivers, especially Danube and Sava, and also on Vardar, that some of these legacy assets might be transformed for new type of use, which is in line with the sustainability standards. But yeah, I'll stop it here for that one. Okay, so this slide is a bit academic. The point which I'm trying to make is the following. Speaking about blue transformation, there is so much that we can learn from each other. There is so much, I would say, good practice for which we are not aware, and that has not been exchanged. And again, whenever I hear Dušica, I'm just, amazed with the amount of knowledge that is out there. So one, I would say, one of the points which I'm trying to make is, first of all, include the science. There is a lot of talk. There is, revitalization of these assets requires a coordinated efforts among different stakeholders. You have, local municipalities. You have central governments. You have financiers. You have entrepreneurs. You have the academia, and so on. I would say where we should start. I mean, from my experience, I think we should first consult the science. Science provides objectivity into the dialogue. What's actually the case? Like for Ohrid, for instance, wherever every season starts with one, typical, I would say, comment that okay, there would be an article about some pollution, some incidents, and so on. Usually coming from the media, from Skopje, and the response from Ohrid would be, these Skopjans, every year they say the same thing, let them go to Greece. And this is, again, a debate which is not based on scientific evidence. It's based on people's talk, right? And also, especially politicians, they don't want to hear, they don't want to disclose always the reality, because if they disclose it, they need to do something about it, and that requires funding, that requires political will, that requires losing the elections, and so on. So point number one, bring in the science, give it, and for that, they need political support, so that basically the voice of the science is heard. Once the voice of the science is heard, then reputable institutions, the World Banks of this world, the EU, they will come on board because they listen to them, very much so. And once you bring, the financiers, then things become possible. Again, we can talk forever about the solutions that exist and so on, for which you need money, and you need smart money. You need money that follow very strict rules of engagement. And specifically to the blue economy, there is a new, I would say, pillar of financing called blue finance. How many of you heard about green finance? Okay, how many of you heard about blue finance? Okay, so what is blue finance? Finance is a finance, money is money. But blue finance just follows, even stricter rules which are applied for water-related, I would say, activities. That whatever you do does not harm the nature, does not harm biodiversity, prevents pollution, addresses climate change issues, and so on. So there are tons of, I would say, materials on this topic, and much more than that. Like the largest financial institutions, they have their internal rules of engagement. For instance, IFC has a book thick like that. It's called Blue Finance Guidelines, meaning that you won't get money from me if you don't do A, B, C, D, period. As simple as that, right? I had this slide because I wanted to make a parallel between Velenje and Bitola as a coal hub. Bitola, another beautiful place. I don't know. I mean, for foreigners, if you haven't been, I strongly recommend for you to visit that part of Macedonia. Bitola sits between two national parks, Pelister and Galicice, and in the middle is Lake Prespa. At least to the best of my knowledge, Dušica, the future of Ohrid to a large extent depends on the destiny of Lake Prespa, and that I've heard some, I would say, theories that the lake is truly endangered and almost at the brink of the point of no return. I don't want to sound dramatic, but protecting that lake is also, in my view, should be really the top priority of our country and broaderly. I've been to the Albanian part of Prespa Lake, and I've seen archaeological findings which are like 7,000 years old. 7,000 years old. So people used to live, they're surviving, thanks to the lake, for 7,000 years. And in one generation, yeah, well, all right. Okay, so less known, water resource for Macedonia is this corridor of Vardar River. We are sitting right to the Vardar River, and which continues in Greece as Axios, and there is also a beautiful delta close to Thessaloniki. And the area of Thessaloniki is one of the largest agricultural regions of Greece. But guess what? This, we are very proud of Vardar for various reasons, for sports, for whatever. But Vardar, unfortunately, collects all the garbage, all the trash, all the, I would say, polluted waters, from its tributaries, from mining operations, from industrial side. Everything goes to Greece, including, tons of plastics and so on. God knows what goes to Greece. And not much has been done, to address this water pathway. If I'm not mistaken, about 70% of the water resources are there, not in Prespa Ohrid Dream, if I'm not mistaken. Or maybe, okay, this may or may not be the case, but it is the region around Vardar, Axios, and I'm talking also tributaries, Treska, Bregalnica, Pčinja, and so on, represents maybe 2/3 of the country. And the, I would say, biodiversity there and the species and people living basically next to this river basin are endangered again by the substandard environmental practices which are ongoing. For instance, Skopje didn't have, still does not have a wastewater treatment plant. Thanks to a major financing from an international financial institution, that hopefully that wastewater treatment plant will be built in the years to come. I recall when I was starting my career as a banker, this was one of my first projects, this hotel. It used to be called Grand Hotel. And I remember the discussion with the owner because we were forcing them to, as part of the financing structure, to have a small wastewater treatment plant. And he would tell me, look, Zoran, your colleagues are just, they're pushing me to invest into a wastewater treatment plant that would be treating wastewater from the hotel, and I would be putting clean water in Vardar, which is dirty water. I mean, it doesn't make any sense, and it doesn't. But again, if you apply the same standards across the board for everybody which is on the river, well, probably the situation would be better before the main wastewater treatment plant is built. And Skopje is not the only case. I mean, in former Yugoslavia, most of the large cities didn't have any treatment. So that's why our waters are in really bad shape. All right. So one point here, something needs to be done. This is a cross-border, issue, which is impacting again an EU country from a non-EU country. And if there are any people from the management of EUSAIR, if they're putting a list of potential programs, one should be this one, in my view. All right. So I mentioned that one, mentioned like Prespa, Lake Doiran, another example of a cross-border shared water resource, beautiful small lake shared with Greece, and I mentioned this one. Okay, pretty much I think I covered the freshwater assets of the largest one at least. All right, so what do we do? Again, I'm here with my colleague Yasmina. As I mentioned, we provide management consulting services, but at the same time we have an institute which is a foundation trying to promote, freshwater blue economy. And as such, we did a couple of things in Ohrid. We've established, an acceleration program for startups. So we are supporting startups which have projects which are addressing sustainability challenges of the lakes. For instance, we've invested in a company, in a startup that promotes ecotourism type of activities, electric boats, electric bikings, digital technologies for water monitoring and so on. So started a couple of years ago, and we aim to continue providing support to this type of blue tech innovators. We've introduced the Blue Economy Summit with the support of international financial institutions, Central European Initiative in particular, to promote the blue economy concept for freshwaters. And there are some few ongoing activities that we are contemplating for addressing biodiversity issues in the country. All right, so yeah, a number of things that could be done around those topics for startups, around water quality monitoring. There are technologies out there, sensors, sensoring, telemetrics, and so on, that could be deployed even in fresh waters. Sustainable agriculture is a huge topic. I mentioned already freshwater ecotourism. The other day we discussed about Studentičko blato, the wetland which sits next to Ohrid. And we have a bunch of those so-called urban wetlands that are being transformed into, which are sitting next to large urban areas, which are being transformed into touristic, attractive, whatever, sites that you can commercialize while at the same time still protecting the environment. So these are called urban wetlands, all right. Biodiversity finance is another subset of blue finance. Okay, it's a different topic, but if I can only just mention, which is not related to fresh water, it's related to blue economy in general for the Adriatic Ionian region, related to the current geopolitical developments, related to the opportunity for the blue economy for our coastal cities in Adriatic Ionian region, because of the war in the Gulf, the tourism activities over there, and yachting, they are moving over to the Mediterranean, and there is a lack of capacity overall in the Mediterranean for yachting and for charter and refit, and I believe this represents a major opportunity for countries like Greece, Montenegro, Croatia, Slovenia to capture, a good part of this demand. All right. Okay, I believe I've exhausted, the allocated time. If there are any questions, I may address them. But just the bottom line is the following: if you want to activate blue assets, the four major components. One is political will, meaning governance, and governance sometimes translates into corruption. Address corruption. Number two, promote private sector. Private sector solutions is the way to go, but not every private sector initiative is the right one. You need, programs which are again addressing sustainability, concerns, for which you have the financing sector as a to provide these checks and balances, meaning that if you don't apply, the best sustainability standards, you won't get financing, and the financial industry should, in my view, will play the key role in that regard. And finally, knowledge exchange. Forums like this offer the opportunity for people to learn from the best practice. Again, we don't need to reinvent the wheel. We don't need to go to far away countries. We have this good practice in the Adriatic Ionian region, and I think any activities that would foster this knowledge exchange should be welcome and supported. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr.
Martinovski,
sorry. If there's
and it's UNESCO protected. But a couple of years ago, it was bought by a private company, and the country gave it for like a couple of millions marks. And basically, the person who bought it, he dried all the lakes, and he planted corn that didn't even grow. And before that, it's called the Bardacha Lake, and it was the group of couple of lakes. It had its own research center on its territory, but it also had a lot of developed tourism, restaurants, pools for kids. Like it was a tourist place. And a lot of young people who were studying ecology and stuff like that, they would come from University of Banja Luka to do their doctorate or something. So it was a very, very nice place, and now it's destroyed. The only thing that is left is one pool and a donkey that is 20 years old. And why am I mentioning Bardacha? Bardacha was like, I'm here to speak for young people and how blue economy kind of mixes with us. It was one of the, I think, best examples of how young people can be included in blue economy and jobs in that sector, and how the negligence and corruption can destroy such things. Let me give my beginning. Our region is extraordinary in nature and biodiversity. We are so rich in so many rivers, underground waters, coastlines, and all these things, they are making the identity of so many people, so many local communities. And at this moment, as a young person, you start asking yourself, can I build a future here? So if I take also a couple more examples of Bosnia. Bosnia is one of the only countries in Europe, I think, that has primeval forests who are ancient, untouched by humans, basically, and they developed naturally over hundreds of years without human intervention. And they're extremely rare and important for biodiversity and climate balance. There is like places like Peručica, Janj, who are rich and valuable nature heritage. The Dinaric region is among the largest freshwater reserves in Europe outside Scandinavia. Yet we often do not manage these waters and resources sustainably. Now, if we connect blue economy with young people, it means new directions, protecting nature while using it responsibly for the development. The young people are the best, I think, one of the best tools we can use for environmental sustainability and the blue economy, looking in the future. Why? Because if you take middle schools, high schools, and if you look at our educational systems now, they are a little bit outdated. The kids learn best like when they're very young, and if from early age in our education system we put in like our biology classes, ecological classes, topics such as environment, recycling and stuff, then we are basically putting the main bricks for the future. Because in universities there is like through the whole world, like universities that are opening so many new studies that are based on environmental science, mixing technical science with ecology and stuff like that. Why? Because they recognize that green jobs are one of the fastest growing jobs globally. Renewable energy, environment protection, sustainable tourism, water management, digital green technologies. Some statistics: in 2023, the EU's environmental economy generated 1.33 billion euros in output. If we build these systems where we focus on these green jobs, and the main goal is that we protect our nature heritage, the biodiversity we have, we need green jobs to do so. And if we build these systems, like for so many centuries, like our countries were always known from taking experts from other countries, from countries that are doing like the right systems, bringing them to our countries to show our people and our governments how to do the stuff correctly, how to rebuild or make new systems for certain topics. And that's exactly what we should do. And then when we have the main bricks, when we start building the systems that actually work and where the main goal is just to protect, because we don't realize now why sustainability is so important, but we will in a couple of years when the question of shortage of fresh water becomes a main topic. And if we build these systems, young people will not ask if it's worth staying because, why? Because one of the main human rights is the right to clean water, to food. And basically, yeah, when you're like 15, you don't ask yourself like, oh, what I'm eating, but when you get in your 20s and you start like looking that in most of our main cities, the tap water is undrinkable. There's a lot of even villages that have the problem like you turn on the tap water, it's yellow. And that's a big problem because many of our people don't even realize why that is a problem and how that affects our health and the health of our kids. And if we are not working on these basic rights, then how can we build future where young people want to stay here? And also, that's also like one of the things that I should be talking about, how to convince our young people to stay by showing them that we care about them, that we care about their future, that, I mean, I think we all heard it's like a quote, like older generations are just borrowing earth from younger generations, whatever. But it makes sense, right? Because if we have some moral compass in us, we would want for our kids that are to come to have the best, like to leave them with better than with what we found. According to international reports, the Western Balkan has almost more than 10% of its working age population lost due to immigrations, and that's also a big problem. But many of young people that I know are leaving to Scandinavia, to Germany, to countries like these to study exactly environmental ecology, engineering mixed with environmental sciences, and they are staying there. I know a lot of organizations where there is like such a talented young people who are fighting for our nature heritages, but they are just leaving because they cannot find jobs here. The politicians are always chasing them because they don't have any secret motives. They just want the best for their countries. Young people are not leaving because they don't like their country. They are leaving because they don't see any more opportunities and vision. And that's very important, to give young people a chance to create a vision, right, for the future. Because when you're young, you're always thinking ahead. And if you're not able to see a clear vision in your own local community, and if you don't feel safe, because we all go for safety. And so why are young people important for these green jobs? Because we risk, but without risk, we don't have the gain, right? And so we are ready to try something new, to explore other things, to say when we are wrong, we are fresh, we have ideas, and what would combine like people staying and also making our countries more sustainable is taking young people into decision-making processes. Right now, it's mostly like a checklist. For example, in my hometown, Gradeška, there is like a city will decide to do some projects for young people and include ecology. And then they will, I don't know, they will say to 20 young people like, yeah, come to our offices. They go. I'm speaking this from my own experience. And you know, you're like 16, and like these old people like working in the local government, they're all in suits, and you're just like after school with your backpack, you come there, and they're like, what do you need? But like that's not the way you approach young people. But you need to sit with them like very casually, and you need to take your time. You need to say, okay, so like, what are your hobbies? What do you like? You don't just say like, what's the problem? But through the conversation, you see where the problems are. You ask, do you ride a bike? Do the roads that you ride the bike on, like, mostly they are terrible. So like you speak to them, they share the experience, and from that you gain information, and then you make projects for young people. I did a lot of projects like voluntarily with my classmates, where it was like planting trees, recycling, education, stuff like that. But if you make it interesting, if you make it new, like a lot of young people show up because they are interested, but you just need to put it in the right way. And for you to put it in the right way, you need young people to inspire other young people. What else did I want to say? Must be. Okay, I said everything that I kind of wanted to say. I know I like kind of skipped through parts, but that's fine. I hope you understood me. But the main point of my speech is that, for example, if I take my own self and my own experience, I love my country, and I think, and our region, like Western Balkans, so many beautiful places recognized by UNESCO, are protected, and so often they put like on social media, and like, but we are not, we are recognized by globally, but we're not recognized locally, and that's the problem. Like when reporters from all around Europe come to Bardacha, but our own local media doesn't want to cover it, the stories. That's when we need to ask ourselves, why do we not want to help our own community that we live in? And I guess the main takeaway from this would be that educational system needs to kind of change, because even with artificial intelligence, like now more than ever, jobs are disappearing and new are appearing, and people say it's scary. It's not scary. It happens like in all of our evolution. It always happens. Like, I don't know, like 50 years ago, you had like men fixing clocks. Like, where do you see časovničar? Like, nowhere. Like, that's what I'm saying. But it's because it's the new jobs are always created. But for that, we need the education system to follow just as fastly as all these changes are happening. And then, okay, we have now educated people, but how to make them stay? by appreciating them, by giving them the chance to work on things, by trusting them. Like, I was talking about, like, just doing the checklist, because, like, I don't know, we will be like, yeah, we need to include the young people in some projects, but then if we are only in, like, consulting, consulting, we are only in consulting roles, yes. And because, like, we should be trusted with more, because how are we going to gain that experience if we don't work hands on hands with these things? And that's all I wanted to say. And also, one very important thing is, like, before we start going to all these, like, global things, like, we should look at our own local communities, to see, like, what's missing there, because the bigger changes always start from the smaller ones. So, like, we cannot change the whole country in 1 year, but we can change something in our local community. And, like, if everybody does that in their own local community, there it is. The country is changed. So thank you for listening to me.
What to say after this? First of all, last night I met Anastasia for the first time in my life, and she was speaking with me and my colleagues, and she asked what to say tomorrow, and she says enough. Just thank you for sharing your thought and your experience with all of us, and I think that your proposals really had something what we should listen and to share in our countries and to try to implement during our everyday works. And thanks to Youth Council for existing in such organization. Thank you once again. Are there someone to add something, or we are closing our session? No words? Then thank you for listening and see you next time.
And now? Yes. So, good afternoon to everybody that have decided to join our meeting today, our workshop today. And this is the session organized by the Interreg IPA Adrian program in the framework of this forum. In the framework of this forum, my name is Barbara Di Piazza, and I represent, together with the colleagues of mine, Coralia Bragnotti and Giulia Frattini, who are here with me today, the joint secretariat of the program, and we welcome, on behalf of the program, to this workshop. As you probably know, our program actively supports the implementation of EUSAIR, and also this event itself is supported by our program, the EUSAIR Forum, through the EUSAIR Facility Point, is supported, is granted by IPA Adrian. But in addition to that, IPA Adrian also contributes to grant projects along with its thematic priorities. And this is the way why we are here today, meaning that we would like to show you in a very practical terms that we are not only a tool to grant projects, but through our program, we have still intense untapped potential to create a valuable ecosystem where the projects can exchange their ideas, learn each other, and then you can also see what, in practical terms, the projects that we grant can do for the Adriatic Ionian community. You will see in a moment how solutions can be tested, what we have granted, how we can encourage the building the dialogue among institutions, research organizations, local authority, and civil society. So In other words, you will see in practice what the speakers in the plenary session this morning have described and called for important and for cooperation. The projects that will be presented today provide you with the different dimensions of the energy transition. So you will listen from the direct voice of implementers how they understand digital energy system, and they have. Okay, shall I move here? Okay. Digital energy systems, energy communities in ports, and energy efficient buildings. All these three elements will be described to you and see how energy can be declined in the Adriatic-Ionian area. We are therefore very pleased to have with us today both institutional and technical experts, together with the representatives of our funded projects, to reflect on the challenges and opportunities ahead. Because, as you have understood, and not only because everybody's telling this, but then it is very easy to understand this if you watch TV, that in particular in this very historical moment in time, clean energy is not only about technology, but also about cooperation. So now I will give the floor to our moderator, Mrs. Katarina Topalova, please. And then she will introduce and then moderate the meeting of today. Many thanks.
Thank you very much, Barbara, for your insightful opening remarks and for setting the stage for today's discussion. For those who may not know her, Barbara Di Piazza is a highly experienced expert in European territorial cooperation with an extensive background in leading and coordinating major Interreg programs across Europe. As head of the IPA-Adrian Joint Secretariat, she brings years of expertise in program governance, multi-level cooperation, and fostering regional partnership. Thank you very much. And now, before I officially start, I will invite all the speakers here on the table and have the official start of this workshop, please. Yes. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. It's a pleasure to moderate today's discussion and introduce a topic that is becoming increasingly central, not only for policymakers and institutions, but also for citizens and communities across the region. Energy consumption is a basic aspect of a daily life of citizens, from ensuring comfortable homes to enabling work, mobility, and connectivity. Energy is something we often take for granted until challenges arise. And in recent years, we have all witnessed how closely energy security, economic stability, and our everyday lives are interconnected. Many important issues are currently at stake. The energy sector has come under pressure due to global contrasts, making it increasingly clear that international relations and cooperation must be strengthened. Many EU countries import nearly all their supplies and some are or have been heavily reliant on single source. Since May 2022, the European Union has taken additional steps to reduce dependence of fossil fuel imports through initiatives such as Repower EU, the EU Green Deal, the Action Plan for Affordable Energy, and the Preparedness Union Strategy. In this context, European macro-regional strategies play an important role in accelerating cohesion, also within the energy sector, by supporting the mobilization of all relevant stakeholders and citizens to prompt a fast and effective transition to clean energy. EUSAIR and all its initiatives represent an important instrument for increasing dialogue among stakeholders and strengthening cooperation through its main partners, member states, EU institutions, and funding programs. However, despite progress, fragmentation caused by different regulation and administrative burdens countries to hinder the implementations of innovative solutions at scale. Today we have a valuable opportunity to gain a deeper understanding of the challenges within the energy sector and hopefully to hear inspiring examples and perspectives from both funded projects and institutional experts. And now, I have the pleasure of introducing our distinguished speakers who are already with us on stage today. Our next speaker brings decades of leadership and international experience in the highest EUSAIR levels of energy policy and cooperation. Sergio Gariba. I think the pronunciation is good. He currently serves as EUSAIR TSG2 Pillar Coordinator for Energy and has played a key role in shaping energy strategies across Europe, from leading Italy's national energy policy to contributing to the work of the International Energy Agency and advancing global discussions on sustainable development and climate frameworks. With a career dedicated to energy transition, innovation, and international cooperation, he brings a broad strategic perspective on the challenges and opportunities facing our region today. So, Mr. Gariba.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Good evening, good afternoon to all of you. I'll try to be short.
You have time, and please.
This is.
I have a question, if you
Yes.
may. Already? Yeah, already.
Please.
Mr. Gariba, what challenges does the area face, and how does the EUSAIR action plan support the green energy transition?
Okay. This is a very complex question. I'll provide you with some reply, but I'm not sure to cover everything. Anyway, this is not a sunset, it's a dawn. Yeah, no, because I don't want to be equivocal. Framework, very short. The EUSAIR, you know, you are here. I am not talking about the EUSAIR, but I think the scope is important. Economic integration, competitiveness, progress towards the European Union enlargement, and social and institutional cohesion. These are our imperatives, so we have to keep them in mind. The actions, I mean, we have 5 pillars. You are referring now to one of the 5 pillars, which is connecting the region, transport and energy. Then there is a governance, which is transparent. There is an action plan. We have an action plan from the year 2024, 2029 ongoing. The past action plan has been completed. Now, I was trying to understand, what to say about the IPA Adrian program. Support to operation of EUSAIR. This is one of the focuses. I mean, you have many more. Then the contribution to enlargement. The Adrian program is working on the programming for the next period, 2024. Then there are projects. We have some examples of projects which are referring to energy, such as advancing renewable energy in the Adriatic-Ionian region, offshore wind network, which is the future. When challenges ahead, you have territorial dimension and sector dimension. But what are the energy challenges? I mean, for those who are not familiar to energy, and for those who are familiar as well. First, I mean, we have to care about the environment. There is a problem of energy supply, so we have an energy shock. This is gas, but oil, I don't have the figure. Then we have to keep our customers satisfied and to have a competitive energy price. Next. Then we have three challenges in this respect. The security of energy supply, and we will talk about this because this is the point where I say the two organizations may join, global climate change and energy transition. Then we have to promote the access and the energy competitiveness. Let us look at the year 2050, which is not that far. So looking at that year, we might think, regarding the region, of three scenarios. One is the current energy policy. Everything is going forward as it is going today. Divergent energy policy scenario, which is a worrisome scenario, where countries might diverge because of interferences which are coming from other countries. I might quote Turkey, China, Russia, and others as well. Then, regarding this, we can have, in principle, in our action, three scenarios. The net zero scenario is the reference scenario, however. So our cooperation, our interaction is within the net zero carbon scenario, which does require an energy transition from the energy system as we have it today to the new energy system. Now, benefit and drawbacks. Now, looking at this type of a scenario, net zero carbon emission scenario, or the decarbonized energy scenario, benefits, transition, convergence towards the EU enlargement and the implementation. So this is the scenario by the European Union. Energy competitiveness in the long term, but we have drawbacks, lack of technology, energy technology gap. We miss the technologies which are needed. Stranded cost to be covered because we have, for instance, there are countries such as, I may quote Serbia and Bosnia and Herzegovina, relying upon coal. Then there is a conversion from coal to other fuels, which does mean investments and stranded cost. I mean, because there are plants which are still there and they don't work, so this is a passive system. We have a competitive asymmetries, and I can see the options for the Adrian program. So the focus on industry integration, new employment opportunities, engagement with science, management, and energy technologies. Next, I mean, how to respond. How to respond to the, we can. I mean, this is Davide Tabarelli. It does look like, but and, he will talk later on, I don't know. But the crocodiles will not eat him, and so fine. Next, I mean, the main topics. So how do we respond? In the action plan by the EUSAIR, we have two topics which are referring to energy. Integrating energy networks and markets is the first topic. The second topic is towards a competitive energy transition, towards a competitive decarbonized system. I do not describe, say, the different approaches we have. I can say, however, that under integrating energy networks, we have more interconnection. So the Trans-Balkan Power Corridor, which is incomplete, should be completed. The Balkan natural gas grid does not exist. Should the natural gas has to play some role, say, in the energy transition, we would need, say, some interconnecting structures and LNG terminals and so forth. Now, the main topics we are working on are just simply to provide you with some idea. First is a master plan of energy 2027, which is energy outlook concerning the entire region. This means 10 countries, which are the 10 countries participating into the EUSAIR. Then we developed that, a roadmap for the deployment of renewable energy. We have a forum on energy efficiency. We are thinking of a hydrogen valley for the Western Balkan region. You know why? The future, year 2050, ideally, will be power, electricity, and hydrogen, two energy vectors. So hydrogen is important. You can see hydrogen there. Then power data center. For data center, because we have artificial intelligence, we will require, say, brains. The brains require energy. The brains are the data center. Next, okay, you're big. Whatever your destination, dream big. So, that's for all of us. So, the EUSAIR Master Plan of Energy. So I don't want to take, say, time on this subject. There will be Davide will be telling you energy programs and projects. So we have the scenario for the long term, the challenges you can see there. And what is the objective? This is important, to have a shared vision on energy and transport for the future of the region. Shared vision does mean that we agree upon that, more or less. Common programs, identification of priority projects, and identification of roadblocks. Roadblocks, should be overcome. The master plan, I would say, is a unique achievement. It was never done. No one invented, or say, a sort of energy policy outlook for the region, which is, in our view, is key. We have to discuss that. We have to share the future and to act today and tomorrow. So the EUSAIR Master Plan was done, say, in the first version in the year 2023, and we will have the EUSAIR Master Plan on energy for the year 2027. So this is, the master plan is the chicken, but you see the egg, I don't want to go too far. So the topics for the EUSAIR versus IPA other interaction. I have two lists. This is the first list. First, the need of careful definition of steps and priority energy projects and timing for action while addressing the climate change issue. Next is the focus and effort on renewable energy sources and energy efficiency. Why energy efficiency? Because energy efficiency is measured in quantities of energy which are needed to make some product. A unit of, how do you measure the economic development? There's the GDP. So how much energy for unit of GDP? So if you look at that in the region, there are striking differences with the European Union and with the most developed countries. There are countries in the region which are consuming 4 times more energy. This does mean waste, of money. Okay, so energy efficiency is key. Renewable energy sources, why are we quoting renewable energy sources? Because they don't emit, greenhouse gases. So in order, to keep our goals, to have a green, totally green system, we need to invest on renewable energy sources or in non-carbonated energy sources. I'm not quoting nuclear energy here, but nuclear energy, in my view, is an option. Key contribution expected from digitalization, artificial intelligence, again, is a subject that we may share. I think important. Cooperation on energy technology innovation. In the region, with the exception of Italy and perhaps Greece, there is no center producing the technologies which are needed for our future. So drawbacks and the blocks are in need to find the countermeasures. The next slide of possible, subjects we may wish to talk together is concerns we have regarding the different approaches and routes which are followed by EUSAIR participating countries, so the countries which are in the Adriatic Ionian region. New energy technologies, which represent an asset, and there is no joint effort or entity to cooperate on the new wave of energy technologies. Again, role of digitalization, artificial intelligence, role of technology innovation, and eventually, I don't remember the last row, but it is fine. I think we were to work on that. So I'm concluding my, keynote speech. Should you like, we can go into more details, but I don't want to annoy you, so let us move to the end. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Gariba, for providing us with that broader strategic perspective and for highlighting both the opportunities and the obstacles that still shape the energy landscape across our region. You mentioned many of the challenges we continue to face, and this creates a perfect transition to our next discussion, because beyond strategies and action plans, an equally important question is, how do we turn these ambitions into practical solutions? One of the answers comes through projects that bring innovation closer to citizens and institutions. Our next speaker is Professor Vladimir Atanasovsky from the Faculty of Electrical Engineering and Information Technologies at St. Cyril and Methodius University in Skopje. Professor Atanasovsky is leading expert in telecommunications, next-generation wireless systems, and Internet of Things technologies, with extensive international experience and a strong record of research and innovation. As Dean of FATE and a researcher involved in more than 20 international projects, his work bridges technological innovation with real-world application. Professor Atanasovsky, we have more time. If you want to add something, we have more. If not, we can continue with.
The subject is so interesting. We are ready.
I know, but we will have time, just to tell you that we will have time for question and answer. Professor Atanasovsky, please, what problem in the energy system would your project intend to contribute to solve?
Thank you very much for the kind introduction. It's a great pleasure and honor to be here. Thanks to the Joint Secretariat for the organization and for having me here at this very important meeting for all of us. I'm here representing the Faculty of Electrical Engineering and Information Technologies in Skopje, which is in fact the coordinator of the Go to Twin project,
which is a project that is dealing with developing a digital twin or a virtual replica of a physical system that does renewable energy sources. So that's in a nutshell, let's say. When we come into more details, it's a big broader perspective, as the previous speaker was also saying to us, that the project is actually addressing a key aspect of the problem of digitalization, of green technologies, of smart infrastructures, and the renewable energy market, basically. So what the project is actually doing is we have 7 partners, academia, research institutions, and companies from the Adriatic-Ionian region, and 9 associated partners to develop this technology. The technology is actually something that is being leveraged upon the IoT thing, which is now transformed into a digital twin, and the practical aspect that we're trying to target in the energy sector is something that is more or less obvious for the technical experts. There are so many renewables now in terms of solar, wind, and hydropower plants that can actually disturb the system. The system is becoming more complex, and the energy market is complex, and at the same time we have interconnection between different energy systems in the Adriatic-Ionian region. So we have to comprehend the problem and discuss about the problem on a transnational level. So some of the efforts that we previously had with developing digital twin technologies are now being expanded on the entire region through our partner network. And what we are trying to do, and we are already in a very advanced phase of doing that, is digital twin, as I said, a virtual replica of a physical system, both for solar power plants, for wind power plants, and for hydropower plants, for all renewable sectors. Having a virtual replica is extremely beneficial from a technology point of view, academic point of view, and then market point of view, basically, because what we are able to do with the developed virtual replica is to simulate all possible conditions in a virtual world. So basically, we can provide data telemetry, data aggregation. We can explore different AI algorithms for energy production, for energy consumption, for optimal methods, for energy management, let's say. But it's also very important to know that when you have a virtual replica, you can actually push the boundaries of the system so that you can actually see how it operates under extreme weather, extreme conditions, so that it can actually provide extremely valuable insight for when the physical systems are to be incorporated. And it's also important that all of these energy systems and energy markets are interconnected. So what happens in one country in the region is also reflected in the other countries as well. So by having a transnational digital platform, in a way, allows us to tackle the problem from a bigger perspective. Right now, we have different so-called living labs with different digital twins that are being incorporated into a single national platform, all situated in different countries in the Adriatic-Ionian region. So I think that the project is really going well, and we have built a very strong connections and relations with all the partners in the project. At the same time, we are building our knowledge in this technology, and also we are trying to see how this technology can be adopted from a legislation point of view, because the usage of the technology is still not regulated, is still a bit different in different countries. So this is another aspect of the project where we gain insight in what is possible, what is doable, and what can be actually regulated through certain policies on the Adriatic-Ionian region.
Thank you very much. And let us now move from energy system to another equally important area, our buildings. Our next speaker is Professor Urša Opara Krašovec from the University of Ljubljana, a scientist whose work combines advanced research in solar energy systems with a long-standing engagement in ethics, integrity, and responsible science. Her research focuses on advanced materials and sustainable solutions, and she has contributed extensively to international scientific collaboration. She joins us today representing the Fenestra project, which supports the adoption of smart technologies for building retrofitting. Professor Krašovec, why is energy efficiency in buildings so relevant today, and what is the main issue your project is addressing?
Thank you very much for the nice introduction. So thank you all for coming here, and thank you for inviting us to give the opportunity to present what we are working on. I'll try to be very brief. So the first answer would be why we are looking at why the building, saving in the building, energy efficiency of the building is important. It's looking at it globally, it's a big consumer of the energy. So it's around 30–40% of the energy consumption. It goes toward building sector. And it's mainly due to the heating, cooling, lighting systems, and appliance. So what our challenge is in the project, we tackle actually the inefficiency of the building envelope. More concretely, on the window, where we are losing the energy. So we did in the consortium, I think we are from North Macedonia. We have the representative from Greece. The leading partner is from Bari, from Italy. We have Bosnia and Herzegovina, Albania, and Slovenia. We have research institutions, they are NGOs, and also the business facilitators. What we are trying and proposing here or investigating is a new technology solutions for building envelope or for the windows. Can you put the slide on? So you can see on the slides a different kind of smart solution that you can introduce into the buildings. What is this kind of device? You have on the right-hand side an electrochromic glazing that I have also in my hand, and if you want, we can play later on how you switch it from this blue side back to the transparent side. So it's a dynamic glazing, a kind of a transparent lithium battery, and you shuttle the charge from one electrode to another one, and in one side it gets colored, and in the other side it gets transparent fully. This is a kind of, smart shading device, and you can run it and stop it everywhere in between, depend on the environment conditions you have outside. On the left-hand side, we have another technology which is a bit more complex. So it's a technology when you have in one device this kind of system together with the solar cell. So it responds on the light, like if you have a photochromic glasses, for example. So you are putting a smart glasses on the building facade, and you can control the energy coming in and out. What we do in the project, we do a lot of, from the basic material research, finding a new solutions for this kind of devices. This is on one hand, but we have a dual action, so we do engage also with the stakeholders. We are just publishing the call of ideas to bring the stakeholders in, and the first preliminary results showed that they are around 30% of the energy you could save with this kind of technology when putting into the Windows solution, and we are now making the further investigations, looking at a certain position. So how beneficial is it the different states in the IPA region? So the participants, and we are planning also the pilot action. So there will installation beside the big ones, also the small ones that we can also, use to transfer the knowledge, because this is a kind of a new technology, is not known, and it needs a lot of, I would call it also educations, and to bring the different stakeholders on the podium to understand the technology itself. What we notice what can I say, is also that regarding the saving of the energy in the building, there is a lot of efforts have been put to the heat resistance of the building envelope, which is okay and fine in the winter condition, but it's not a lot of, how to say, policy given to the policy, how to save the energy from the cooling side, which is getting even more important with the global warming. That's in short, not to be too long.
Thank you very much. And now we turn to another key area where energy transition meets infrastructure and regional cooperation, ports. Our next speaker in this segment is Alberto Cosi from the Port of Trieste, with a background spanning international relations, transport, sustainable mobility, and logistics. He has extensive experience managing European initiatives and developing innovative approaches in the port sector. Since 2017, he has been leading EU-funded projects as the Port Network Authority of the Eastern Adriatic Sea. Today, he represents the ADRI-REC project, which aims to transform Adriatic Ionian ports from sources of emissions into low-carbon, clean energy hubs. Mr. Cosi, why can ports be a good environment for developing energy communities?
Yes, good afternoon, and thank you for the invitation on behalf of all the project partners, which come from almost all the countries of the EPA-Adrian and EUSAIR. So why can ports be good test grounds for renewable energy communities? Well, first, we are big energy consumers. Now, currently, we are big energy consumers of fossil fuels, but in the coming future, in the next future, we will be of electricity. Why? We did a study a few years ago through a cross-program collaboration between two projects funded by Interreg Italy, Slovenia, Italy, Croatia. We have applied the same methodology of CO2 calculation in all the ports of the Adriatic coast of Italy, of Slovenia, Port of Koper, and Croatia. And the results were very interesting. It was the first time that we did that. And we found out that on average, 65% more or less of the CO2 in the ports does not come from the ground, so from the land. Usually when someone thinks about the port, thinks about the trucks that move around. Well, actually, that for the port of Trieste is just 1%. But 65% comes from the ships when they are moored at the port. And now, why? Because currently they use the auxiliary engines to power the electricity on the ship. The European Union countries, we are subject to the AFIR regulation, the new regulation, which forces us to provide energy supplies to the ships through cold ironing facilities, which basically means the ship arrives, turns off the engines, it connects to the energy grid, and so that there is no production of CO2 emissions and pollutants in the port area. So a strong electrification potential in the coming years. So we are big consumers. We are also a macro world. Each port is a macro world where you have strong and closely knit communities of port authorities like ourselves, terminal operators, ship owners, and public authorities. So for us, working together as a community is quite easy because we always do it on a daily basis. Sometimes we agree, sometimes we do not agree, but we're still a community. So putting these two things together, strong consumption and community thinking, is a good test ground for testing renewable energy communities. What is interesting is also that ports are not islands. When we think about port, we usually think that beyond the port gates, we do not care what happens. But actually, there is a city beyond. All our ports are surrounded by cities. What is coming through this project, also interesting, is that most probably through this strong electrification, we will not be able to produce and consume all the electricity that is needed. We're talking about megawatts of energy, especially for cruise ships. But beyond the port gates, we have a city, we have a region, we have potential producers and consumers of energy. So this project is leading us to thinking that, okay, renewable energy for communities, for ports, we need smart grids, we need more power from the national grid, but also integrating with the city, which is beyond the gates.
Thank you very much. We have now heard several concentrate examples of how innovation and cooperation can support the energy transition at the project level. But to complete the picture, it is equally important to step back and look at the broader regional and geopolitical perspective. Our next speaker is one of the most recognized voices in the energy sector. Davide Tabarelli is the founder and president of Nomisma Energia, and has spent decades analyzing energy markets, climate policies, and strategic developments across Europe, with experience ranging from advising ministers and contributing to national energy policy to working on energy transition issues at the highest levels. He brings a unique perspective that connects economics, policy, and real-world energy challenges. Mr. Tabarelli, today we have heard about 3 different approaches to the energy transition in the Adriatic-Ionian region, ranging from digital energy systems to energy communities in ports and energy-efficient buildings. Based on your experience and your knowledge of both EU and enlargement countries, what do you see as the main energy challenges for the EU enlargement process and current affecting the area?
Difficult question. Thank you for the introduction. I like it a lot. And yes, I heard about these projects that are very interesting, are feeding the hopes of finding easy solutions towards transition and towards the energy transition. And it is very difficult, however. Integration of renewable energy sources is one of the main topics now, because intermittence of distributed generation, because of the difficulty of exploiting more energy, more availability of renewable energy sources because of the prices, because of natural gas, fair, clean, fair, independent. Everybody wants more renewable energy sources, but they have a lot of difficulties. It is a problem. I've been hearing about the need of boosting renewable energy sources all over the last half a century, but the important is still very marginal. About buildings, yes, buildings, I was waiting for the famous statement that 40% of energy consumed in industrialized countries, in rich countries, is consumed in buildings. Again, I want to point out that we have the highest energy prices in the world, in Europe, especially in Western Europe, especially in Italy, and we are already very efficient, therefore we are already doing a lot. About energy communities, again, it is a kind of new target, new hope again for boosting, for supporting renewable energy sources, especially outside the ports, in the civil sector, especially photovoltaic. But again, there is a lot of disappointment. As the example of Italy, we were expecting 5,000 local authorities to develop, to exploit the communities. cold iron in ports has always been very important, and again, we are late compared to what were our targets. However, having been so critical about all these different actions, we have to continue on them. We have no choice. It is important to insist, to deliver results, to feed also the hope to do things better. We have to consider what we are doing and to check the results, to make balances of what we have done in the past, because we are supporting these initiatives with taxpayers' money. And therefore it is an obligation to insist at the same time to give results. And this is what I suggest. We have no alternative. We have to continue. Because energy is going to be extremely important. The next future and the long-term future is more electricity, and all these solutions are related to more consumption of electricity and cleaner form of electricity, specifically independent also electricity, because the energy dependence now is so important. So I see also for this project, after being so critical, a bright future.
Thank you. And because time allows, I would like to open a second round of reflections and invite our speakers to briefly look ahead. Mr. Gariba, let me start with you. In your opinion, what role should cooperation play in the next phase regarding the energy transition in the Adriatic-Ionian region?
Okay, thank you for your question. In my view, we should focus on projects which might have important spin-offs from the viewpoint of economy. I can make 2 or 3 examples. The first example, this is also a question. I think we should invest into the coupling of artificial intelligence and energy. Now, artificial intelligence is a technology that the region is imported by the region. But artificial intelligence might resolve a number of problems which have been quoted here. For instance, the coupling of artificial intelligence and energy efficiency is very interesting because one can optimize the use of energy. I don't want to make specific examples, but let's assume in the buildings, in the apartments, in the house, you have energy which is used according to, say, different end uses. There is a possibility of having what I'm calling a single management of the energy within the apartment, within the building, and this is possible with the present wave of artificial intelligence, which is generative artificial intelligence. This artificial intelligence has very important spin-offs in other economic sectors. So the development and use of artificial intelligence will create an important asset for the economic development and for energy saving, of course. Should we look at the next wave of artificial intelligence? So, the next wave of artificial intelligence is variously called post-generative artificial intelligence. I would prefer larger physical systems instead of large language systems, which is the present artificial intelligence. large physical systems would allow artificial intelligence to move the robots, to move the cars, to move the machinery, to move, systems that are in an open environment and should decide by themselves how to place, within that open environment their options, their faculties. So this will be the next step, but I'm not asking Adrian to invest into, the next wave artificial intelligence. But this will come, because by investing in the first wave, you are preparing, or say, the market for the second, the next wave. So this is, in my view, a priority, because it has a number of, let us say, consequences, most of them positive, and it does help those who are developing artificial intelligence with application uses in order, to specialize the artificial intelligence. There is, I would say, a related problem which the region does not see, are the data centers. Artificial intelligence, the neurons are the microchips. The brain are the data centers. The data centers with the present technology, there will be another wave, quantum computing, but quantum computing has to come. I can see the quantum computing by the 50s, 60s of this century. So there is, a time gap there. Data centers require energy. Now, why not? There is no data center, I would say, in the Balkan region. Western Balkan, there is no. But they come, they are coming. So this is a new chapter. Adrian might think on how to provide data centers with energy. So this is an important point. Again, there are options, but this is research which should be done, or should be done, I would say, some study in order to understand how those data centers will be fueled, how they will receive energy. The discussion about the data center is now active, I can see, in Italy to some extent, but it's very active in the United States, in China, Japan. It's the problem of the day. So we are talking of tomorrow, data centers. So this is another subject. Now, the two subjects are relating with artificial intelligence, so which is fine. Then I have another subject that I think of interest. I do not see in the region, with the exception of Italy and partly Slovenia and Croatia, the electric vehicles. Electric vehicles, why are they important? Because they replace the use of oil, fuel derived from oil, which are used by the cars. So again, one can make a study on, how to promote the electric vehicles. Should we promote? Should we stay like we are? Should we wait? This is a subject that I think of today, interesting. While there are other subjects which refer, renewables was a subject we discussed here. But the renewables are a family of sources. So where should we invest? In my view, it is important to invest into so-called renewable energy communities. The renewable energy communities, are a reality. In Italy, we have number. We have in Croatia, we have in Slovenia, renewable energy communities. But the renewable energy communities are interesting when they, have an engineering capacity. So the renewable energy communities should develop some technical unit in order to help them. And they should develop a market mechanism in order to exchange, directly energy. I have a neighbor which has solar panels and is overproducing this energy. How can I buy the energy from this guy? There are methods. Very interesting method is blockchain. So as I'm suggesting, an initiative on blockchain. The blockchain for the renewable energy communities. But the blockchain for renewable energy communities is a product which can be sold. Is a computer program. This is a very simplistic view about that. So again, on renewable energy communities, I would focus on the communities, because the communities are promoting and they select the type of renewable energy which is the most suitable to the territory, to the land, or to the landscape they have, instead of focusing on one single technology. I found, however, very interesting the effort that Adrian is placing on offshore wind energy. Offshore wind energy has to come. It does not exist today, in the Adriatic, Ionia, Mediterranean Sea. But is a very interesting option. The offshore wind plants can be floating. They can be everywhere. And they can work very well, not that far from the coast because of the problem of energy or power transmission. But again, I think this is a good and interesting point by Adrian. I'll be interested in knowing what's happening regarding the project Adrian has. Then there are other options which are much more technical, is second generation biofuels. First generation biofuels are, I'm not saying discarded by the European Commission, but they are very suspicious. But the second generation biofuels may open new avenues, to synthetic biofuels. Then there is an extreme case, but I don't know if Adrian may wish to go to the ground, but I'm almost finished. This is the last one. Hydrogen tree. The trees are producing chlorophyll, are producing cellulose, all like that. It is possible. We have, we have experiments on that. Photovoltaics are producing power, electricity. We can have photovoltaics, but I should not call with that name because there is volt, which is electricity. But it is possible the direct use of solar energy to produce hydrogen. In this case, we are talking about technologies which are maybe 20 or 20 years ahead, but this will be a revolution. So in this case, Adrian will be a forerunner, doing something that maybe the US, China are not even daring to do. Okay, that's all right.
Thank you very much. And perhaps I could invite our project representatives to reflect on a broader question as well. Based on your experience, how can Interreg programs better support the development of innovative solutions and facilitate stronger integration between EU and Western Balkan countries in the energy sector? Please. It's the same question.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, it's a platform for cooperation, collaboration, experimentation. It's something that is a tool for us to exploit when networking with our regional colleagues. I mean, our colleagues from the Adriatic Ionian region, half of that are already part of the European Union. So I would say that we have this joint cooperation, EU and Western Balkans, within the Inter-Equipa Adrian projects that we already have. Some of the technologies that we are using are already developed previously. Some of the partnerships were already there. I mean, we know all of the people from different international projects. For us specifically, it's a great platform to start cooperating not only on technological advancement, but also on legislation, on policies, on harmonization, regulations, and so on a transnational level, so that we can actually be more beneficial in our technological efforts, let's say. In this sense, I think that as we see different data about where the region stands in terms of Western Europe, in terms of energy supply, demand, prices, and so on, I think this is a good chance to leverage both the knowledge and what is needed to spearhead the efforts towards better integration of the Western Balkans and its energy ecosystem in terms of whatever is there towards the European Union. So I see it as a great platform for continuous collaboration and driving the efforts towards closer European Union, let's say.
Skrešovec, please.
Thank you. I do not have much to add because you presented it very nicely. I fully agree what has just been said. I would say the technologies we are looking at our project, they are really not so well developed yet. So we have sometimes like a big problem when the project is ending to further on to invest, to go further, how to get the finances to make the next step and bring the solution on the market. And this is often the case. I would say that it's the saving of the energy. It somehow came out of agenda. We are now speaking, that's my opinion, too much or over on the spending of the energy. There will be more, as you said, with artificial intelligence. So, which means that it will be increase of the energy consumption. We will need it more. And I think the buildings are the one where we do have some chance to put attention on savings of the energy. And specifically for our region, I would say we really have the problem with the cooling of the houses and the consumption of the energy during the summertime. And this is getting up. But if I may, I would just reflect what you to comment on your last technology that you mentioned about the solar fuels. I think you were talking about this smart and novel technology. I think we do have one opportunity, one step in between is like energy storage or energy conversion. Energy conversion, I think it goes very well along with the renewables, especially with photovoltaics. And this is, I think, it would be something that this region would be good to invest to electrolyzers and this kind of stuff towards the hydrogen. That's from my side.
Thank you. Mr. Cozy.
So we've made in our project an analysis of renewable energy community legislation. And it's interesting because not only does it differ between EU and non-EU countries, but it also differs within EU countries. So first, added value of programs, Interreg programs, EPA Adrian especially, is mutual learning between EU and non-EU, but also I would say capacity building. Because we have different starting points, but always in our European Union projects, Interreg projects is usually, there is this capacity building, knowledge building, starting from the most current and most recent evolutions in technology and approaches. And this is what it actually project partners bring back to their own institutions, in our case in ports. We have 2 ports in Italy, Port of Koper in Slovenia, Rijeka in Croatia, Bar, Durrës, but also the inland ports of Serbia and Piraeus. So we all bring back the common knowledge and we disseminate internally within our own institution. And this is where knowledge starts to build and also to be applied on a more harmonized level.
And finally, Mr. Tabarelli, I remembered your last words of the previous speech were, I see a bright future. You concluded like that. But still, after hearing today's discussion and the examples presented here, do you see these projects as isolated initiatives or rather as signals of broader future priorities for the region?
Yes, they are to some extent, again, I repeat, an attempt to solve problems and to exploit the opportunity of energy integration to create a stronger community of countries of different languages, cultures, and that is a very ambitious target, but it is not the only one. Europe has this extraordinary ambitious targets, that is that of transition, energy transition and decarbonization to save the world through the cutting of CO2 emission worldwide, despite the fact that we account for just 6% of the total. And this is very, very ambitious. So what I see here, and the presence of Ardion and also our strategy today, is this commitment of European policy that is very sophisticated and ambitious to solve the problem of the rest of the world. It is very easy for me to criticize it because we are not thinking about energy bills, gasoline and diesel gasoil price at the pumps now, and all these kind of troubles we are facing now. But at the same time, let's say the commitment of Europe is to finance policy, to direct, to exploit, to study, to make efforts. It is also an ethical and cultural attempt that is giving to the policy strength. And I'm saying it not just because I'm a European and also to justify, to excuse me, my critical approach, but also because what I see around the world is that all the rest of the world want to come to Europe and want to do the same as the Europeans do. So it is a good example, again, I repeat, thanks also to these different projects that I would like to see more results instead of repeating them also. So it is a very challenging condition, this one, but we have to continue.
Grazie.
Grazie.
And because we have time, I will ask if there are questions from the audience here to our speakers, maybe. If you have something, please. Now is the time. If not, we have one more thing to do before we finish. So thank you very much to all our speakers for today's insightful discussion and valuable contributions. Today's conversation clearly showed that the energy transition is not only about technology of infrastructure. It is equally about cooperation, innovation, and the ability to create stronger connections across countries, institutions, and communities. We heard different perspectives and approaches, but also a common message that addressing the region's challenges requires shared efforts and coordinated action. As we move toward the conclusion of today's event, I would now like to give the floor to Ms. Kirkovsky for the closing remarks. She is head of NIPAC and Ministry of European Affairs. Please.
Thank you. Before I dive into the concluding remarks, I just want to share my excitement for being in your company. Wow. I mean, I'm in the European integration process for over 26 years now, and I saw Europe that is legatory, harmonizing, that is strict rules, that has very, how to say, very well written policies, but I never experienced this inspirational, innovative Europe. And thanks to you, I'm humbled to acknowledge that, I mean, there is still chance for everybody. This is my personal remark. I'm so humbled to be in your presence, and I'm sure that you will bear with me in catching my thoughts all together and trying to bring it as a concluding remarks. What I draw in my mind while listening to your delivery was this kind of picture or this kind of cascade. So you have on the top of it the major role of the European Union to bring the policies on the European Union level. Then you have these micro strategies that could bring the features of the region and create micro level policies for these innovative approaches. Then you have the European Union that help us, in particular the countries of the Western Balkans, to invest into not only major infrastructure, because we are still missing the major infrastructure in the Western Balkan countries, be it from electricity grids up to the gas interconnectors, including the hydrogen solutions. Also renovating an infrastructure in the hydro sector that has not been touched upon or even restructured since since the last century. And then we have this breeze of new inspiration, bringing new technologies on the table. And I'm so happy that with the project of the Professor Atanasovsky, we showed that Macedonia could be also a front runner in bringing on the table new technologies that could really save the energy and provide it with your, with the rest of your intervention, very inspirational food for thought for the future, which is even tomorrow, because 2050 is really something that it breeds us, it breeds in our necks. So as a host and organizer of this event, it was pleasure to host you in Skopje and to open really important subjects for our joint future. And I assure you that we are doing our best in the limits of our not only capacities but also financial power to really address common challenges in the, specifically in the Adriatic Union region. What I can further conclude is that the importance of the collaboration among beneficiary countries as the challenges we obviously face together, whether linked to the energy transmission, climate resilience, connectivity, or innovation, cannot be addressed in isolation. So we are bound to work among ourselves. Cooperation remains our most effective instrument for building sustainable and inclusive solutions for the entire Adriatic Union region. The action plan that was mentioned that covers the period 24-29 and the new master plan for 27 actually give us the possibility or give us the safety caution that we are on a good way to continue our cooperation and to by tackling the most urgent and the most trying challenges that we face. In particular, what now is very much a momentum to discuss further would be what will happen after 2027 in terms of the financial possibilities through European Union funding instruments. And this debate will probably take not only 2026, but most probably 2027. And I think that the Commission has a unique opportunity with the new budget, with the new multi-annual financial framework to tackle the growing relevance of the thematic sectors such as energy security and green transition, which are becoming increasingly strategic not only for the economic development but also for the regional resilience. We have had the successful examples in the past, for example, the Green Deal, which was designed on the level of the European Union. Then we had the Green Agenda on the level of the Western Balkans. Now we are working on the implementation of already national green agendas in the Western Balkan countries. So this cascade is possible if the vision is clear and if we know what we need to do and what we want to achieve. So these themes are likely to play an even more central role in the future European territorial cooperation, thus the happy marriage between the EU level policies and the Adriatic Ionian policy. The program has practical instruments for strengthening trust in institutional cooperation and for facilitating European integration, especially for our region, by working together through shared projects and common objectives. My experience says that whatever we have on the ground has to be mature, has to be ready to implement it if we want to use the funds available through the EU budget. By working together through shared projects and common objectives, partners contribute concretely to the integration process and to build a more connected and cohesive region. And this is something that was actually in the back of your intervention throughout the whole session today. So I will stop here. I think that this debate should continue because you raise the bar of future discussions and really impose some strong narrative. And we should really be clever enough to use your experience, your knowledge in building better region and better Europe. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And before we finish, I would also kindly invite everyone to take a moment to scan the QR code displayed on the screen and complete our satisfaction survey. Your feedback is extremely valuable and will help improve future initiatives and discussions. Thank you once again for being with us today. Thank you.
Thank you.